Hi everyone, Michelle Giannato here, Vice President and Patient Advocate for the nonprofit Auto-Brewery Syndrome Information and Research. My husband's body would make alcohol from carbohydrates. I wanted to pick up where I left off from my last episode, where my husband had a seizure, and that was in December of 2015. He was released from the hospital with a possible diagnosis of seizure disorder, and doctors wanted to give him seizure medication, which we decided we didn't want to proceed with the medication because we did not think that he had a seizure disorder. He did not have a history of seizures, and the medical situation occurred after his post-op infection from nasal surgery. We continued for the next 12 months with my husband being hospitalized nearly every 3 weeks for a week. And he would be at anywhere from any one of 4 hospitals between New York and New Jersey, depending upon the severity of the illness. Many times he had pancreatitis, high blood pressure, uncontrolled blood sugar, and in I think it was over the summer of 2016, I noticed a lot of times he would stop breathing in the middle of the night. So I was always shaking him to wake. I had called a pulmonologist and asked for a sleep study. And what we found is that during the day, his oxygen when he was awake was 74. And when he slept, it dropped down to 66. So things had clearly escalated. And he also gained 60 pounds of fluid over those 12 months. But he was on oxygen 24/7. We had a portable oxygen concentrator as well. And they did, again, more tests, more blood work, more scans, more chest scans. And they found that there was absolutely nothing wrong with his lungs. Nobody could explain why he could not maintain oxygen in his body. I had asked the pulmonologist to call a pulmonologist that he used to see years back and do a side-by-side comparison to the test that they were taking so they could probably determine what had changed with the x-rays, the blood work, the CAT scans. And the pulmonologist had called his old pulmonologist. They spoke a little bit, and he came back to me and said, there's nothing wrong with his lungs, nothing. There's nothing wrong, nothing changed. We don't know what is going on. And I was so over the top, worried, infuriated, frustrated, you name it, because I could not understand why he continually was sick, in the hospital constantly, and now he can't breathe without oxygen. It was ridiculous. I started making appointments for him with doctors in other offices, other hospitals, just taking him from place to place because I could not understand how no one could figure out what was wrong with him. It was so frustrating. My neighborhood was aware that he was constantly sick because the ambulances were always here. The police were always here. And taking care of him was a full-time job. You know, he was always sick, always vomiting, always sleeping, huge memory lapses. And one of the things that was discovered in his blood work, which was consistent over those 12 months, is his potassium was low, his magnesium was low, his liver and kidney enzymes were elevated, his vitamin D was low, his testosterone was low, high blood pressure, constant pancreatitis, and no one could figure out what was going on. He also had high lipase levels, high white blood cell count, and every time he had a high white blood cell count, antibiotics, it must be an infection. That year was probably one of the toughest years, and it's so frustrating to go from doctor to doctor, hospital to hospital, And I started keeping a book. It was 4 inches thick, and I had all his EKGs in one section, his blood work in another section, his CAT scans in another section, his chest x-rays in another section. And I would bring this book with me everywhere I went, every doctor, and I would say, please look through these records. Tell me where this needle is in this haystack. Everyone is missing it. There's something wrong. We got our answer after 12 months the following month. Follow my next video for what occurred after that.